Hello, my name is Ian. I'm the owner of Willow Guitars. Willow Guitars does guitar setups, repairs and refinishing. Today I'm going to do a video showing you how I complete a kit guitar. This is the kit we're going to be doing. This is a 5-string bass. As you can see, it's basically quite a well-known shape, 5-string. The body itself is made of ash and is very nicely put together. It's a 4-piece body. There are actually 4 pieces to the body. There's one here, another one here, third one here and a fourth one here, but the joints are very well done. It's fairly well routed out. Control cavity is not exactly the neatest in the world, but it's reasonable. I've marked out where the control cavity cover is going to go on here because I'm actually going to route this out so I can actually fit the cover in rather than have it sitting proud on the guitar. Move on to the neck. See, the headstock has already been shaped on this particular guitar. It's a 24 fret neck, 34 inch scale. Maple with it looks like a rosewood finish, but I'm not absolutely certain that it is. Frets are relatively small, but seem to be fairly well put in. There's no real sharp edges, but I will do a fret leveling and a refinishing job on this anyway. Now, little thing about scale length. What exactly is scale length? Scale length is the distance between the nut and what will be the bridge when it's fitted to the body. In this case, as I said, it's 34 inches. Well, you have to know the scale length of the guitar before you actually put the frets in. And these frets have been positioned in a very specific place to match the scale length. Now, I've measured this and I have an app on my tablet which allows me to check what scale length is going to be. I have checked these and it's actually pretty much spot on. What isn't quite so good was the position of the nut. The nut itself was a little bit too close to this first fret. So what I've actually done is I've knocked the nut off, which I simply used a wedge of wood, this, laid down, and I gave it a thump with this hammer, a very gentle thump, and it just knocked the nut off the end here. The nut itself is this, and it's actually a really nasty piece of plastic. So I'm going to be replacing this, and I'm going to be replacing it with a black tusk nut, which will glue on to here when we're ready. But first of all, I have to make sure that the distance between this first fret and where the nut will be is correct. And I've already started by putting 2 layers of wood veneer, which I've glued to the inside of the neck here. I've got a little bit of work to do to tidy this up and make sure that that distance from that nut to that first fret is correct. Then I can glue the nut on, but I'll do that at a later date because one of the other things I'm intending to do is put a veneer on the face of the headstock. Now, what else came with the kit? There is the control panel cover, which I'm going to replace with the wood sheet. Set of 5 bass strings. A bag full of screws. We've got the potentiometers here, which I'm not going to be using because I've got it on the active kit. A few other bits and pieces. A fairly solid 5-string bass bridge. This is just a piece of card which is just protecting it in transit, so that'll be taken out. The machine heads themselves, black sealed units, and they feel pretty good. They're quite smooth and there's very little play in them. Whether I will replace these at some point in time I don't know, but I'm certainly going to use these for the time being. And of course there are the pickups. There are two soap bar pickups. These are humbuckers. So, and that's what came with the kit. Right, overall, basic quality of this particular kit. I'm actually quite impressed with this. For the money that I paid for it, which was about a little less than £120, this is a very, very nice piece of ash. The neck appears to be very nicely done. The fingerboard is very attractive. And I'm quite pleased with this aspect. As far as the hardware is concerned, the bridge does appear to be quite chunky. See how that one goes. The machine heads appear to be quite precise. Obviously the nut wasn't terribly good, but I wasn't expecting anything better. So, but as I've got a replacement, that's not a problem. And there we go. Now, what do I use to sand? Well, I've used some P240 sand, dry sand, not wet. I've used a sanding block with a paper wrap around it to sand the flat areas. On the curved areas, and particularly in these horns, I've used this. This is in fact a bit of pipe insulation. You can buy these from DIY shops all over the place. And all I do, slot a bit of paper into there, wind it round, and you've got a relatively firm but gentle curve to your sandpaper. And it fits in here extremely well. Saves your fingers. Once the body is ready, I am going to be staining this. What I'm going to be using are Crimson Guitar Stunning Stains. Well, these are actually Stunning Stain shots. This is concentrated. You mix this with water and apply to the body. I've not used these before, so this is going to be interesting. This is a black. The black I'm going to be putting onto the body and then sanding most of it off. What that will do is it will accentuate the grain, because these are going to be translucent colours. On top of that, I'll be using Royal Blue. The headstock, as I said, is going to have a veneer put on it, which is going to be of similar wood to the base, to the body, and that will also be stained blue. I'm going to give it active circuits. This is the kit I'm going to use. It's pre-wired. All I need to do is wire up the pickups and the earth strap, and everything is ready to go. Well, one of the things I'm going to do with these videos is I'm actually going to show you all the processes that I use to build this guitar. I'm going to show you the tools that I use. I'm going to use a lot of very standard tools, the sort of things that you can get from most DIY shops. There will be a few specialist guitar tools that I'll use, but most of that will be when I come around to doing the actual finishing work. Certainly working on the frets, making sure the frets are level and things like that, but I'll show you all of those tools as we go along, give you some idea of what I'm doing and how it all goes together. So what is the first thing that we need to do? Well, as I said, I have already started. I've sanded this off with the 240 grit sandpaper. I then wet the surface down to raise the grain, which it raised it quite a bit. I then sanded it a second time till it was nice and smooth. I've then raised the grain again with water, and to do that I simply used piece of kitchen towel, which I dipped in water, not dripping with water, just enough to wipe over the body like that to dampen it down. Allow this to dry. I let it dry overnight. 24 hours later it's ready to sand again. However, I'm not going to do the next lot of sanding because I have a few other things I've got to do first. As you see, I've already marked down a center line, so one of the things I need to do is drill out the holes which will eventually be for the strap buttons. I also need to drill out the holes ready for the bridge. Now the reason I'm doing this now before the guitar's finished is I can actually mark on here where the bridge needs to go before I actually do any staining, so that once I've done that I can just sand those marks off. This hole, by the way, in case you were wondering, is actually for the earth cable which is required for earthing the bridge. So the first thing I will need to do is mount the neck to the body, which I have to say is a little looser than I would like, but it's not far out. Once I've got this mounted, I will then measure from where the end of the fingerboard is, or where the end of the nut will be, down here 34 inches to the saddle of the bridge. Once I've got that in place, once I've got the bridge square on, I need to make sure that's square. I'll run some lines down on either side. In fact, I already have done. Run some lines down either side to show you where to show me where the edge of the neck is. Once the bridge is mounted and square, to make sure that it's square to the neck and square to everything else, I'll drill it out. But I won't leave it mounted because obviously they will then need to finish the guitar. So that's going to be the first job, and I've got to and I need to mount the neck through the pre-drilled holes in the body. I'll mark down in here and I'll drill out some holes in the neck and then screw it all together. So that's going to be my next job. Now, I'm not going to film absolutely everything I do. I will explain to you exactly what I'm doing, but I won't show you everything. I don't think watching me sanding a guitar for hour upon hour is going to be particularly interesting. So I'm not going to show you much of that. I might do a little bit on camera, but I won't be doing very much. But some of these things, particularly things like wiring, finishing, things like that, I will show you. So look out for the next video. And see how I progress. Thank you for watching.